Welcome to Empowering Chats with Susan Burrell. This is where we have deep, intimate conversations about self-empowerment and future existence. I am an intuitive healer and a light leader who has been called to activate other light leaders. So I'm curious, are you one of them? So by listening, lean in and see if you are ready to be that eternal potential you've been called to be. Using your bravery, your talent, your tenacity, can you be innovative and adventurous in order to activate your light and lead from that place? This is where we learn how to love ourselves from the inside out and love the whole world over and over again. Enjoy the show. Hello. I have been investigating ancestral clearing. I've been doing that for myself over the last couple of years, and I've created a series, an ancestral clearing series we're going to start in May this month. And the reason is because I have found that going through my lineages has helped me to release hidden beliefs, shadow aspects of myself that I didn't know I had, as well as creating a brand new freedom, if you will, not only for myself and how I view my life and how I view me, but for my children and therefore my children's children. And it's been a pretty interesting, powerful experience. When I started doing it, it was really just to clear the belief that I wasn't worthy, that I was not valuable. Lots of people have that feeling, I believe. And I went back through my ancestral lineage on my mother's side and then my father's side, and went to what I felt, not saw, didn't know, didn't even know their names. It was back generations. But what I felt was the individual who first felt unworthy. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because what's occurring in the world right now is this eruption of hidden aspects within not only individuals, but societies, cultures, hidden aspects that we call the shadow. Carl Jung phrased it, it was the shadow side of us that we hide because we feel that the society or the culture at large would find us unacceptable if they knew we had this behavior or feeling or activity or talent or whatever gift. You know, many people that were clairvoyant at certain times in history had to hide it. So the shadow begins to develop when our egos, so as small children, when our egos are developing. And that is because we become aware that the people around us love us if we do this and withhold that love or judge us or scold us if we do something else. So we begin to hide aspects of ourselves, you know, and which is kind of sad because as a child, you're just expressing, you're just exploring and experimenting with this new world that you find yourself in. So it's interesting to think about the ancestors, the people that came before us, and what they had to undergo, that they then developed traumas around or protection, emotional, mental, physical protection devices to keep them safe. So what I'm talking about is, well, okay, so like in my ancestral lineage, I had people that came over on the Mayflower and people that came over and founded Jamestown, the first colony in the Americas. And thinking about them, their trauma, what they experienced in England before they left could have been traumatic, could have been religious persecution, could have been, I don't know what. And um or they chose to leave to find a new place. And then the crossing over the passage through on the ships, many people died. And then when they got here, they had to figure out how to survive. And they were waiting for their ship to come in, for the next supply ship to come. And oftentimes those ships didn't come. So there was trauma. How do I live in this world where it's not a city? I came from London. There's buildings, there's people, there's, people that sell food. And, how do I live here? How do I build a house? That kind of stuff. And so then there were new traumas, new survival things that happened, new horrors, if you will, watching people die, all that stuff. Now, that's a white version, but everybody has these kinds of traumas in their generational lineage, ancestral lineage, because let's face it, 200, 400, 1,000 years ago, life wasn't easy. It wasn't like what we have right now. I can turn on the tap in my house and I have water. I can turn on my air conditioning if I'm hot, or my heater if I'm cold. People that were before us didn't have any of that. So it was literally, for many people, how do I survive? And then for many people, how do I trade the goods I'm growing, or the furs I'm catching, or how do I do these things? And then for many people it was like, how do I keep what's mine? Right? So what's occurring right now in the world are these multicultural, across the world, right? Not just in the United States, multicultural shadows that are coming up. And they're coming up because many of us that have been doing our consciousness work have been developing our higher connection to our higher selves, to source energy, to the wisdom within. We have become vessels, if you will, for a new vision, right? A vision that is about love, about inclusivity, regardless of what's happening in the United States right now. It is about compassion, and it's about creating a world that works for everyone, not just the few. So in looking at that, these shadows are coming up because it's for us to individually and collectively see, witness, either clear it, heal it, or integrate it. And ancestral clearing and healing, I've been finding, is actually a really easy, I want to say easy, sometimes it's not, it can be a little upsetting, but fairly easy way to clear those behaviors and beliefs that you have that maybe weren't yours, right? They got handed down, just like your ancestors hand down gifts, certain talents that you can do, like painting or crocheting, which I can't do, but my mother and grandmother did, things like that. Engineering minds or whatever. So it can what's also been handed down is the trauma, the shame, the judgment, the fear of not being good enough, or the fear of not being able to take care of my family and survive. So feeling lack, impoverished, feeling devalued because what you can do, you're not allowed to do. The thing that you want to do, you're disallowed. So you're devalued in that way. That's another aspect of devaluing. But there's also that feeling of being abandoned, the need to control. Hello, maybe I've got all these and nobody else does. But so those things get handed down, and we forget that this, whatever feeling it is, a feeling of shame, say, or a need to control, maybe didn't originate with me. maybe didn't originate with you. Maybe it came down through your family of origin, through your ancestors. And it becomes a shadow aspect. People don't talk about that. I mean, there's families that traumas have happened, horrible things have happened, and the whole family says, we don't talk about that. We just don't talk about that until everybody forgets that that horrible thing happened because nobody talked about it. You don't even know that this is what's going on with you because nobody talked about it, right? So, dealing with or addressing your inner shadow, beginning to look within and find those aspects of yourself that you feel uh, need to be hidden away, or that you didn't even know you hid them away when you were a small child. Like for me, there was this intuitive knowing I had at a very early age. You could call it psychic or clairvoyant, but there were things I just knew. And I was not allowed to discuss it. I was not allowed to bring it up in front of people. Um, and I didn't know. All I knew is I had been shamed a few times by my mom, and because it embarrassed her. My clairvoyance embarrassed her. So then as a small child, I knew I even though I could feel or see things, I wasn't allowed to talk about it. And until I didn't talk about until I didn't even know that I could feel and see things. And consequently, it led me into my disowning that aspect of myself led me into a very traumatic marriage. So that took me years to get out of. And once I got out of it, all of those skill sets began to open up again because I was accepting and loving myself. I had decided I would respect myself. I would develop my skill sets. And all of a sudden, all these inner modalities just kind of came forward. And so I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, that there are ways that you can um, heal, of course, from the inside out, that there are ways that you can address these shadow aspects. If you're feeling um, a sense of abandonment and you don't really know why, chances are there was an ancestor who began that feeling, that belief, had that experience, that trauma either perpetrated on them by being left by their family, or was the person that caused the abandonment. We never know which side of the coin we've been, flipped on, if you will. But using a clearing method to go up through your ancestral lineage to find the originating or as close to the individual that experienced the trauma so that you can support them with love, with compassion, with forgiveness to release whatever they've been holding on to so tightly so that the following generations can also release. And it in many ways, I want to say eradicates or erases those feelings. I'll give you one example. I had been experiencing really arthritic feelings in my hands. Now, my mother had horrible arthritis. I used to tease her. Her joints had twisted and turned, and she'd point a finger at me, but it looked like she was pointing away from me, and I'd joke with her about it. My grandmother had horrible arthritis in her hands, and so here I am beginning that. People would say, "Oh, it's passed down through your genes." "Oh yeah, if they had that, you're gonna get that." And I'm a firm believer. I don't got it. I don't have to have what my ancestors had. So I sat and went into meditation and went up through my mother's line, the matriarchal line, to find the first person that developed this arthritis in their hands. And I went pretty far back, it felt like, and I saw in my mind's eye these two hands that were just gnarled and so full of pain. And I heard that or saw that this individual had to dig and dig for potatoes. I am Irish, so hence Mayflower, blah, blah. Had to dig for potatoes in order to feed their family. And that the survival was so necessary because people were dying of the famine, the potato famine. And so they would dig and dig and dig until their fingers hurt, until they were gnarled, trying to provide food. So you can see where that trauma of not having enough, of having to really, really fight for your survival can be passed down until you don't remember that your great, 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 great somebody was a potato farmer. You don't remember those things. But the experience of eventually having arthritis becomes the reality, right? The belief that I'm not good enough to provide for my family, the fear that I'm not good enough to provide for my family, that I have to work so hard to provide for my family. And even if I work that hard, I may not be able to provide for them and people could die because of me. Those belief systems get passed down, those behaviors of fighting for survival. And then the fear gets passed down, or the need to fight and defend for your family, for your sustenance, for your food. Now that's back generations, you guys. So who knows what's at the very, very tippy top of your ancestral lineage? Who knows what your ancestors on your father's side, your mother's side, and it branches out just like a beautiful tree, what they experienced that then became part of their belief system, and then became part of the culture, and then became part of, right? We don't know. Again, another example, like in my family, because we came over on the Mayflower and there were people coming over to escape religious persecution, or were just put on the boat and sent over to get them out of England or wherever, because they believed a different religious belief, right? So they come over, and all of a sudden then the Puritans, let's just talk about them for a nanosecond. They then, because they were being persecuted, they decided they were going to do it right. And so what happened is then there was a new style of persecution within that religious organization that was about perfectionism. Anybody got perfectionism going on? I'm raising my hand. Yeah. The perfectionism could stem from that belief system that we're going to do this one right. And everybody, in order for us all to survive, everybody has to follow the rules to the T. And that means, whatever all the religious dogma was for the Puritans, but it was strict, right? And their idea was it needed to be strict so everybody could hunt, gather, provide for the survival of that new community, right? But there was also the trauma coming out of England where they were disallowed these beliefs. So when you're disallowed something, right? I mean, think about when you were a teenager, when your parents said, no, you can't do that. Didn't you sneak out and go do it anyway, right? So when you're disallowed the thing you think you want or you believe is true, you become even more stringent about those rules and regulations. And so I am a recovering perfectionist, and I well imagine that it started in that puritanical Mayflower ancestral lineage, right? And so when I choose not to be that perfectionist anymore, then I'm also then letting go of that part, that aspect of my shadow that was passed down to me. You guys following me? So, in doing ancestral clearing, you have the opportunity to gift yourself more freedom to be more of who you are now, who you are, not who your ancestors were, not who your grandparents wanted you to be, but who you are, who you want to be. And then you get to grow yourself more into that. You get to expand actually into your soul purpose, your soul, that inner divinity that came in with you that says, now you're going to be this, you're going to do this. And that means releasing whatever shadow aspects may still have influence over you without you knowing, and or consciously releasing those shadow aspects that you do know have influence over you. So ancestral clearing, you guys, for me, has been a gift. And again, like I said earlier, the other part of the gift is that, excuse me, is that it not only releases the ancestors who have been holding these burdens, but it then clears the lineage forward. So when you do this clearing, ancestral clearing, you're clearing the past, you're clearing your present, and you're clearing the future generations so that they get to live from exactly who they are when they're born. They don't have to do the mucky muck, They don't have to do the stuff that just because that's how it's always been in the family, or it got passed down, or I don't even know why we do it anymore. Like, why do people have ambrosia, that salad thing every year at Thanksgiving? Well, that's how we always did it. My family, it was sweet potatoes with so much sugar and marshmallows. There was no sweet potatoes. You know what I'm saying? So, now lots of people believe that, well, I've been doing these clearings for a while, and I've had a couple people say to me afterwards, well, my ancestors didn't have any problems. They were really great. I just love them. Okay, but then yes, I get that. And yes, you're allowed to love your ancestors, your grandparents, I loved my grandparents. And if you go back far enough, you will be able to find those aspects that have been hidden from you. You will be able to find the traumas and the reason why you get triggered in certain ways, why you feel like you have to be a perfectionist, or why you judge people, or why you're so fearful about what's going on in the world. Yes, it's because what's going on in the world is frightening, but there's also ancestral aspects hidden in the shadow within you that have memories of previous trauma times. So, ancestral clearing, it's really kind of cool. It really, really is. And I find it's really helpful. And it is allowing me, as I do my own clearing, to become more me, if that makes sense. So I am starting a ancestral clearing series beginning May 6th on Zoom, and we're going to do 4 of them. And it is on my website, so you can sign up to participate. It'll be a Tuesday, May 6th, Tuesday, 6 Pacific time, and you can register to either do 1 clearing or to do all 4, and they're going through November. So check it out on my website. And I would love, love, love to share this experience of creating freedom. And oof, I have my grandparents right here just loving me up. I thank you. So to have that experience of freedom for yourself and for the future generations, and also then to love your ancestors for all that they did, all the trauma they went through, and that they came through it with doing the best they could so that you could become born, so that you could become the person you were meant to be here and now during this time of chaotic shadow recognition. Anyway, Ancestral Clearing. Go to SusanBurrell.com and register to join. And the first session again is May 6th on Zoom. And that's it for now. Until next time. And so it is. Namaste.
Well, that wraps up our empowering chat for the day. I hope you enjoyed it and found it inspired you to be more empowered. If you want to find out more about me, go to SusanBurrell.com, my website, and you can see what we're up to. I am teaching classes again, so there's a calendar of that, and you can register. You can check out my book, Live an Empowered Life, a 30-day journey with the companion inspiration cards, or you can access my guided meditations that go through Insight Timer. We got a bunch of stuff on the website. Check it out. And until then, namaste.